All right,
Other than
we'll
that,
make
we found the report to be in order.
We'll make that change.
We do have some requests regarding probation conditions.
All right. I did receive your sentencing memorandum. Is there anything else that you want to say on her behalf?
Just a couple things, Your Honor. If you notice, we attached some letters to the sentencing memorandum. And those letters, as I realized as I was driving up here, most of those people would be victims of the crime, because most of them are relatives of Braxton. And I also thought about, the last time we were here, and I see them again today, there's T-shirts that say "Justice for Braxton." I was thinking in my mind, how could putting this woman in jail bring justice to Braxton? And in my opinion, it doesn't. The things, and I'm going to repeat a couple things that were in the brief, if I could. I think it's worth noting, not one time in my client's life has she ever touched a gun. She's never laid her hand on a gun. Not a handgun, not a long rifle, nothing. And her experience with guns were really the 3 guns they had in the house that her husband took care of, and they didn't even belong to him. They belonged to other relatives of theirs. And Theresa will probably wake up every morning sick to her stomach. I've had some remorseful clients in my life. I don't know if I've ever had any more remorseful than Theresa for not taking some physical action herself that day. But as I stated, she had never personally touched a gun in her life. And she had asked her husband to take care of the gun. Another thing I think is worth noting is, at no point did Theresa ever know that she had that there was a loaded gun in the house. She didn't think any of the guns, there were 3 of them, were any of them were loaded. And the final thing I'd say is, she certainly was not aware of any law being changed. Now, I know that's not a defense. She's responsible for the law changing, this new law, but she was unaware of that. So in terms of elocution, that's all I have. But I do have 2 things that I would ask the court. And this is on page 2, first of all. It says that she has to work 30 hours a week. She's been retired for 3 years, and she has a host of physical problems that would probably prevent her from working. So I'd ask that that not be a condition. And that's number 14, Your Honor, on page 2. It says she's to work 30 hours a week.
If I also remember correctly, she's on disability?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll strike that condition.
Right. The second one is on page 23. Or number 23, I'm sorry. It says she cannot provide care for children under the age of 18 years old. I don't think there's anyone that wouldn't think that this was an anomaly. This is a woman who has spent much of her adult life caring for her grandchildren. They love her to death. The family farm was the place all the kids wanted to go. She fed them. She took care of them. She loved them. She nurtured them. She had a particularly close relationship with Xavier because her daughter got some challenges herself, and they have been living with her all these years since he was born. And so she pretty much provides care for him. I would ask the court make some kind of an amendment as to provision 23. I don't think she's any risk to ever harm a child. And I don't think she will ever have a gun in her home again. As far as punishment that she has faced already, her husband got 3 years, 2 months. And I know in speaking with him, because I did have the opportunity to speak with him, that he doesn't want to see his wife go to jail. And I know that would be a departure from the guidelines. I'd ask the court to maybe consider a home tether so that she wouldn't have to be incarcerated. She's 65, she has a host of problems, and her husband is taking responsibility. She's separated from him for the next 3 years, 2 months. They lost their home, their farm. She's now living in smaller quarters in Shelby, Michigan, where she was able to find some housing. She's been obviously having to deal with, she loved Xavier and Braxton, and they were best buddies. And she can barely talk to me in my office without crying over this. I'd say one of the two most tragic cases I've had in my entire career, Your Honor. And I know it's a big deal asking the court to consider. And all I'm asking you to do is consider whatever your decision. We're here today to live with it and accept it, but I would ask the court to consider suspending a jail sentence or considering putting her on tether. And as I said, I know there are maybe some victims who feel differently, but the letters that we provided are all victims because they're all relatives of Braxton's. So they don't want to see her go to jail. I ask the court to take those things into consideration. Thank you.
All right, and Ms. Robart, have you had the opportunity to read the report and discuss it with Mr. Nolan?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any additions, corrections, or challenges?
No, sir.
Is there anything that you'd like to say on your own behalf?
No, sir.
And Ms. Robinson, have you had the opportunity to read the report?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any additions, corrections, or challenges?
No, Your Honor.
Do you have any victims that wanted to address the court today?
Your Honor, when we had reached out on Friday, I would ask the court to give an opportunity. The mother of the father of Braxton would like to speak, that they be able to come forward. The father was
Your name for the record, please, sir.
Dominic.
Okay, Mr. Go ahead.
I don't have a lot to say. I already said what I had to say for Carl's sentencing. But the fact that you don't want to take responsibility for allowing them children to be in that room blows my mind. I lost my 5-year-old son in your care. Irresponsibility, negligence at its finest. I don't care who hates me after this speech. I don't care what people think about me. They didn't lose a son. I did. She needs jail time. It's bullcrap, in my opinion. I kept my daughter off stand so she didn't have to deal with the jury. She got this plea deal so my daughter didn't have to go on stand. My 8-year-old daughter should not have to relive that day that she knows that she lost her brother. But for her to sit here and possibly not get any jail time, it's not right. Not when her husband has to do 3 years. She should have to do the same amount. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I believe that no other victims would like to speak, Your Honor.
All right. Now, as to Mr. Nolan's request to eliminate condition, or paragraph number 23, condition 9.02, that she must not provide care for children under the age of 18. Your thoughts on that?
Your Honor, I would ask the court to leave that condition in place. Do understand that she had been a pretty regular caregiver for some of her grandchildren, and even if you classify this as a one-time, situation, the level of negligence that was shown that day demonstrates to me, and I hope to this court, that it's not unreasonable to deny her the right to supervise children under the age of 18. The defendant has no children of her own under the age of 18. It's not like this will cause her to lose her children. And I believe that this would be appropriate to leave in place based on the facts and circumstances that we're dealing with here today.
All right. Is there anything else that you want the court to consider?
Your Honor, I would like the court to consider sentencing above the recommendation in this case. The recommendation was 270 days. The guidelines are, I believe, 10 to 23, and a no prison offer was made. Unless my math is wrong, 270 days is 9 months. I see no reason to go below the guidelines on this, especially considering the reduction that was already given. Mr. Nolan argued and acknowledged that ignorance of the law is not a defense, but she didn't know that this new law was in place. She didn't plead under that new law, Your Honor. So even if she didn't know that was in place, that's not what she pled to. At the end of the day, She was responsible for these children. She knew that there was an unsecured firearm in that room, and she allowed those children to be in that room unsupervised with that firearm. And as a result, a little boy lost his life. We would ask the court to sentence pursuant to the plea agreement, but to give her 1 year in Winnebago County Jail. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, the court recognizes that the advisory guidelines would suggest a sentence between 10 and 23 months. The courts can exercise my discretion and sentence consistent with the advisory guidelines, consistent with the plea agreement in this case. It'd be the sentence of the court that this defendant served 1 year in the Winnebago County Jail. I'll give her credit for the 4 days that she's already served. There's a $60 DNA fee. There's a $68 state cost assessment. There's a $130 Crime Victims' Rights Fund fee. The court is going to place her on probation for 2 years. There's a $30 per month probation oversight fee for regular probation, $60 a month for electronic monitoring or tether. Those areas that would be addressed on probation are those appearing as probable under the core compass needs scale. Now, Ms. Robart, I know that this decision of the court may be controversial, but the court does think that this jail time is appropriate for you. Ms. Robinson makes a good point that really you are just as guilty as your husband. You worked out a plea agreement that saved you prison time, which is a good thing. And it just makes me wonder if we'd be having the same discussion if there was pills or poison or anything else that endangered this child out. I mean, that's the situation that you allowed to have happen. Now, I don't know anything about this relationship dynamic between you and your husband, but I know if my wife told me to get my guns out of there, I'd have done it. I don't know why he refused. I don't know why he wouldn't do it. I don't know how you couldn't impress upon him that it had to happen. But here we are. For those reasons, the court is imposing the sentence that I've imposed. You do have the right to make application for leave to appeal your conviction and sentence. If you could not afford an attorney, the court would appoint an attorney to represent you on the appeal. The request for a lawyer must be filed with the court within 42 days. That's all.
Your Honor, are you leaving number 23?
I am.
Thank you.